and I have an announcement to make. I can multitask the long arming with the piecing. It triggered me. It hit all of my neurons and they were all firing at one time. Because who is more energetic and more positive than Kimberly at the Backwater Shop? So let's let this develop kind of organically. Hi, welcome or welcome back. I'm Dawn at the Lake. You have to excuse the voice. I have had a cold. I feel much better. I just sound worse. But today is the day I had time to be on camera, so please have a little grace for not sounding at my best. Hopefully we can get this video done without my voice completely going away. So I'll try to be quick. We know that I'm not so good at keeping things quick, but I'll try. I do have my hot tea to help, so maybe we'll be fine and we'll get through this. Let me explain what you're looking at here and where I am in general, and I have an announcement to make. I have been watching Barry Quilts, B-A-R-R-Y Quilts, and he's just started something that gave me tons of ideas. It kind of solidified some ideas that were in my head already, and I just needed something to kind of, give me that creative push. And this one video of his did that for me, and I'll explain that later. But first, let me, while I'm standing here, explain what this is all about. In my last video, I'd explained that I had gone to Joann's Fabrics so I could cancel an order because it had, been a month and they hadn't even tried to deliver it yet. So I went in and just canceled it. And then, of course, while I was there, I took advantage of their sales. And I got an Ott light with a magnifying glass, but I also got a good bit of yardage. I just went through and I knew I needed some practice fabric for the long arm. There are some things I want to do on my next customer quilt, a viewer quilt for Vicky. But before I do anything to her quilt, I knew, I knew I needed to practice first. So if I'm going to practice, I don't want to practice on expensive fabric, but yet I want it to be productive. There are ways that I could get around making a quilt for practice. I could just make it small. I could figure out how to work inside a 12-inch swath of fabric on that long arm and just kind of mimic what I need to do inside that small area. And that way I'm not wasting a lot. But I do need, I have two little furry friends and they love furniture. My last dog never got on the furniture. I never had to worry about it whatsoever. These two think they own all the furniture. So I have to have something to protect my furniture from all the fur. I don't, as I say all the time to them, they live in a people house. I don't live in a dog house. So we have to have something set by my rules and not theirs. So I need some quilts. So I need something to cover up my furniture. And I need something to cover me up when they're on top of me so that I don't get up from sitting with them and, look like a dog bed myself. Okay, so with all that said, so if I'm going to be making these practice quilts, I'm going to turn them into some dog blankets for my living room. After that, whatever practice I do that turns into actual quilts, I'll just put those into, most likely what I'll do is I will put those into the stack that goes to for the Avery Quilts charity that I wanted to make. I told you guys about that a year ago. It's for children, pediatrics on a transplant waiting list. And as I was getting started with that and this whole YouTube channel last year, it's when, the trajectory of the channel kind of veered a little bit because my life veered a little bit. I had to close down that duplex, and then I had to leave and go to Charleston for surgery, and then I had the shingles and the ribs that were coming out of place and the torn rotator cuff and, it was all the things. And the dogs and getting the pond and not being able to let the dogs in the backyard. It just really ate away at my ability to be productive in a consecutive way. Well, I want to get back to all that, and that's a big part of what this video is about how I'm getting back to my piecing while also moving forward on the long arm. I needed to sip on my tea before my voice completely goes. I'm about to say to you something that I never thought I would ever say. I didn't see a world in which this was a reality. This channel has over 3,000 subscribers. And that means that over 3,000 of you at some point have said to yourself, I want to see what else is coming from this channel. And so you hit that subscribe button so you'd be notified. That means the world to me. So I send out a very heartfelt thank you to you. I really appreciate you so very much. Thank you for being on this journey with me. We're going to keep on moving that needle. And right now, we'll get you back to the video that you came here to watch. Thanks so much. So I did a deep dive on the long arm. You guys know that. I've been sharing about almost nothing but that. And, initially, the conversion of this bonus room into a studio, and then getting the long arm and trying to get familiar with it and getting comfortable with my skill level. I've had that long arm now for 7 weeks and have done a few different quilts, and I feel comfortable with where I am. There's so much to learn. Like, I can't wait until I've learned everything that I want to learn and then get back to my piecing or get back to any part of normal life. But and I know that isn't the objective. I want to take my time on the learning journey, and I want to learn really well. But I feel comfortable right now with what I've learned, and I can be able to offer my skills for hire. So I created another channel so I can promote that on that channel, and it's called Quilter for Hire. Please go over there, follow me there. Primarily, I'm just going to do YouTube shorts over there. I'm sure every once in a while I'll do a longer format video, but it will be but it's not going to be something I'm uploading longer format video to. That's going to stay here on this channel, where we're doing piecing and we're doing all over kind of a newbie quilter journey. And that is what I am doing. If you are newly here on this channel, that's what I am. I consider myself a newbie, even though I've got a few years. If I look back in the 90s when I first started in quilting, and then of course I had that long hiatus, 25, 30 years or something, and then got back into it after I had the OC fusion. And since then, I've been doing a pretty deep dive, and I've learned a lot, but I am just scratching the surface of all there is to be learned. I feel like what I can offer you, because you're not going to come to me for if you're looking for something, say, oh, I need to know the best way to do this or that, your first thought isn't going to be, oh, that Dawn at the lake, she knows, she's got all these great tutorials. I'm here more about the narrative, the journey, and sharing that so I can inspire you, keep you encouraged and motivated, sharing my mistakes too, so that you feel better whenever you're making mistakes, so that we can all feel like we can just push forward on this. I call it keep moving the needle, because we're moving a lot of needles around here and keeping things going, whether it's a hand needle, sewing machine needle, or a long arm needle. It's just a wonderful way to think about keep on pushing forward. And that's kind of my MO in life in general. But it definitely was through my illness journey, that medical crisis that I was going through. It's like you just do what you can to move the needle in some fashion that day. And it all adds up, and then all of a sudden big changes happen, and you wonder, well, how did that happen? Well, it came in incremental steps. So if you're a newbie quilter, I want to say to you, keep pushing, keep moving the needle, keep going. That block, that square, something didn't turn out right, keep going. And all of a sudden, you're going to see that you've produced a quilt, you've produced a lot of quilts, you've motivated others, you've encouraged others, you've loved on others. Okay, so I've got more to share in that trajectory of this conversation, and I will do that. But first, I want to sit down to do that, because I may be feeling a lot better, but my legs are not. So I want to get off of them right now. But let me discuss this really quickly. So on the long arm right now, I have some of that cheap fabric, and it was $3.99 a yard. That's what I paid for this fabric. Now, it's not the best, but I think it's okay for dogs. It is definitely dog blanket friendly pricing, right? So I got a good bit of it. And I don't want to make it just a little blanket. I want to be able to stretch it either lengthways on the recliner, or completely over my lap. And so that's over my lap and over my arms when they're curled up with me. Just so glad they're little dogs. So they can both fit on my lap at one time. The little corgi can get a little jealous about sharing my lap, but they both curl up on my lap together, and it works out just fine. So I don't want a little bitty piece of fabric. So what I end up getting for each of my practice quilts that I'm going to be doing is I got 2 yards. So I've got 2 yards. So it's just a whole cloth piece of fabric that's on the front, and that backing is also 2 yards. So instead of piecing, I cheated. I looked at there's my finger. Okay, right there. So I looked at my piece of fabric and I sketched out first what I wanted to do. I used one of my quilt top marking pencils that's water soluble to mark out this design. I had to do the math on it, so that's what all you see here. So it's just a square inside of a square. And I thought, well, how am I going to do my quilting on here? And I don't really know yet, but I wanted to kind of get a feel for what I might do. And, when I get over to the Pro Stitcher and I start looking at my different options, what you see in the end may not look anything like that. And I'm going to tell you right now, you're not going to see that finished product in this video. So there's no like, wait till the end and you'll see this big reveal. I'm just getting started on this. It is completely loaded on the machine. I will show you that. But I want to do a catch up with you all because I'm promising you I want to do some quicker videos. Let me just go sit down and we'll have that conversation there. My legs aren't feeling great, so I'm going to go sit. See all this? These are pieces for the Mars quilt that used to be on this design board, but this design board is not adhered to my wall yet. So when the dogs get over here behind me because they like to be near me and start roughhousing, they're hitting it on the bottom, so it then wants to tip this way. So I try to get them to not roughhouse around me. My first objective as I'm getting back into piecing is going to be the Mars quilt. So after this video is over, you'll probably see some of the footage of it during this video. I'm going to put these back on the wall and try to get a concept again of where I am and know what I have left to do, because I'm not that far away from having a top done. This should be something that it draws me up here because it's so close to getting done. But as you know, I got the long arm and I had to move studios, and a lot of reality kept me from doing what I really wanted to do, and that's finish creating something. But what I was doing with the long arm and with the studio, that was all creative too. A lot of creativity's gone into it, even just planning out the space. So that's the next thing I was going to say, is that I haven't shown you an update on my space because I stalled out on my construction of my cabinets. I told you I had the complaints of the furniture that I bought and ended up getting a complete refund on everything. And I'm going to figure out how to use everything. Well, I take that back. I was offered a refund on my metal pieces, but I ended up keeping them, so I'm not getting a refund on those. And I actually kind of like them. They're just, they're difficult to put together. They're rickety to stack, but solo as one unit, they're going to be just fine in this space, and they fit underneath my tables over here. So that's fine. And I've got one more to make. I wish I could get more shelves. I would be a lot happier with it if I could get more shelves, because not stacking it means that you have an off number of shelves for the number of legs that you have for it. Trying to keep that voice going for you, and so we can get this video wrapped up. But my two pseudo wood cabinets that are over here, I had major issues with those and got stalled out on that. And I went ahead and got the long arm in here, and I felt so much pressure, self-induced pressure, but also financial pressure. Like a lot of money just went into this long arm, and I'm pointing over there because it's right there behind the camera. A lot of money just went into that, and I got it so I can make money. Well, I'm not going to see a return on that investment if I don't actually learn how to use it. And so I needed to use that energy and that drive to push things forward and, move the needle. And I did. You guys have seen me do that. I have put a lot of work into it. I've got several quilts that are done, and I'm about to do this practice quilt that we just talked about. And that's great. I feel good about that. I feel kind of settled, like I have enough experience that I feel like I can breathe again. But also, I couldn't multitask well. I want to do a little debriefer here and get you guys caught up. Around Thanksgiving, I started having more problems with my health and with my legs, inflammation in my hips and leg pain. And I had a flare of my fatigue too. I have chronic fatigue syndrome, and it just, even whenever I'm at my peak, it's still there. I just can't function at the same level that anybody else can function, even whenever I am able to get out of the house more. But I have to pace myself to keep life going, and I've become quite the expert at it. And that's partly where the phrase "keep moving the needle" comes from, because I just I'm telling you, you can't find somebody who can multitask life and pace life better and be productive than if you find somebody with chronic fatigue. Now, I'm talking real fatigue, not just, man, I did too much today, I need to go take a nap. Not that kind of fatigue. But if you got somebody who is very industrious, very gung ho, very, the soul of that person, like myself, is very get stuff done. Let's do this, let's do that. But you got a body that doesn't want you to do that, that person learns how to pace themselves and maximize almost everything they do. And sometimes it means you leave this while you do this, and you leave this while you do that, but then you move a little bit on this, and eventually you get stuff done. I can get an amazing amount of stuff done, but a lot of pacing is involved. So if you also have fatigue, if you have chronic illness issues, I openly share because I want to normalize it so that all the rest of us have the freedom to do that and feel comfortable doing it. So I'm not the only one with arthritis. I'm not the only one with other, I won't even list all the things I got. I'm not the only one with issues. I know that. All of you, most of you, have something or know somebody who has something. And if you don't have anything or know anybody, count your blessings. Because life changes as soon as mobility issues and health issues come up. So the reason I go into all that is because it was difficult to get around. The inflammation in my hips was so bad, and my legs were so painful that it was, and the fatigue too. But even just so, it was just a cycle of things, right? That was keeping me from multitasking while I was doing the long arm. So just figuring out the long arm is really all I could do. That and keeping life going. But I am doing better. I was put on prednisone about 2.5 weeks ago now, and that's really helped with my inflammation. And then that's helping my fatigue too, because prednisone, what does it do? It gives us energy. And it also reducing the inflammation and being able to walk more easily. It is helping my fatigue too. So those two things are better. And I feel more settled about where I am with the quilts and learning the long arm, that I feel like I've got a good basis from which I can learn more things. So that allows me to take a breather and say, okay, I'm at a good place now. Let's try to see what life is going to look like now that we've had this major transition come up, and where we've absorbed this space as a studio. And I got the downstairs room where my studio used to be. I've got that converted over to, I call it my praise time room, my PT room, and that's for praise, because I have my Bible time talking to me while I'm in there doing my physical therapy. So it's my PT room for praise time and physical therapy. And I love it in there. It's also playtime room, because when my grandbaby comes over, that's where we go. And so it's got her toys in there too. So it's my PT room. So my PT room is all settled. It used to be, well, it's almost all settled. I still have a design board up down there, and I have my, what do you call that? Oh, pegboard. My pegboard is still down there, and I got to get those things absorbed up here. But I haven't taken them down because I can't worry about them as it's low on the priority list, while I still need to get these 2 cabinets done over here. So I will be this week working on these cabinets. So 2 things, 2 goals. That's all I've got for this whole week. And that is getting this practice work done over here, getting this practice dog blanket done so that I can feel more comfortable working on Vicky's, and getting these 2 cabinets built. And yes, I ended up I got the refund on them because they were missing parts and they were missing holes. So it's going to require some trips to Home Depot to get all this to happen. I'm going to have to buy some parts, buy some metal parts to help attach things that don't have holes and that kind of thing. But I'm going to get those done because I don't like working in messes. Whenever I get these 2 done, and then I can fully get this room, well, fully, I can considerably, I need to watch my words. Okay, not fully. I don't want to set that expectation on myself. Whenever I can have when I can have a more comfortable level of organization in this room. This video is already longer than it should have been, but my voice is hanging in there. Anyway, what I was saying is, if I can get these 2 cabinets done, and I can get a level of organization in this space that makes me more comfortable, then I can get back to my piecing. I can multitask the long arming with the piecing. I have been just standing right at the long arm, because initially when I first started, I would say, "Oh, you're supposed to be able to multitask when you do this," and I would look away. Well, I had so much to learn. It was best if I stayed attentive to the machine for those first few quilts, and I did. But the room beside this bonus room is, the fourth bedroom of this house, and I use it as an office. And eventually my ironing board is going to be in there, and I've got a DIY ironing board situation I cannot wait to share with you. That is also not the priority of the day or priority of this month, probably. And there's something else I got to do too that's not the priority, but is going to be another video. So I'll do a video on the DIY ironing board, and I will do a video on the other project, and it's more about fire safety. So it sounds boring, but I think it's a healthy thing for us to do since we have, you know, random things in our space like this that produce maximum amount of heat, and we have them maybe on the same thing as what our machines are on. We've got things to consider when it comes to electricity and fires. So I did a little bit of thought behind that. Getting the long arm actually helped me to think about my fire safety because of the type of surge protector I needed to get for that. But we'll talk about that in another video. And I will show you probably updates throughout this week about the furniture pieces and how that's coming together and how my space is changing when it's changing. I want to update more frequently with you guys. Now that I'm on this lovely miracle drug called prednisone, I should be able to have the energy to do more. I don't have a house guest anymore, so it's just me and the dogs that I'm trying to, stay on top of. So, it should be easier. But you've been wonderful to stick with me for these last few months as there's been a lot of volatility in my life. Hopefully we can stay, forward motion, moving that proverbial needle, right? Okay, so you're going to see this go on the wall. You're going to see those cabinets built. You're going to see some changes in this space, and you're going to see that I'm working on that quilt. That's the objective for this week. I hope that you've got great things planned too. I want to connect with you guys more, and I was watching Barry Quilts. I mentioned that in the intro of this video. I forget the actual name of his. I think what Barry calls his is a this new program he started, and it's memory button. Yes, I think that's it. Memory button membership. Think. If not, go to Barry Quilts, BARRYQUILTS, and follow him. He's a very pleasant man, and he's a newbie, so go and encourage him, right? He deserves all the encouragement. He's doing a great job. He's like, flying at warp speed while he's learning. And he's a retired engineer, so he's got the engineer brain, and that really helps, I'm sure. But he was talking about the reason he was doing this new program of his, that it was all about legacy. And that was like, it triggered me. It hit all of my neurons, and they were all firing at one time because the word legacy has been so important to me since I was 21 years old. The word legacy has driven everything I've done. I'll be very brief about this, but there's two kind of sour note things I'm going to bring up that, might trigger some people. So I apologize, but I'll go through it really quickly. So at 21, my father disappeared, and no one's seen him since. He didn't show up for my wedding, and no one's seen him since. And about 15 months later, his mother, who I kind of considered another mother because I spent a lot of time with her as a child, she was brutally murdered in her own home by teenage next door neighbor. Totally random thing. And then I had my son. So I was young and dumb, starting real adulthood as a parent. I married. I was married, and all of a sudden I was not in college anymore. I was a stay-at-home mom with a baby, and what happened to my father and my grandmother, it was brutally murdered. Like, this is why I don't watch true crime things, because I've had enough true crime stuff happen in my life. And it's just not where I want to rest my thoughts. I want to live life joyfully, enjoying pleasant things, and that's why I don't watch the news either. So you're not going to hear much about current events on this channel because I just don't like a lot of negativity. You might not think so because I share about health and that kind of thing, but that's not about sharing negativity. That's about trying to normalize things and just letting you know, this is my life. If I don't share my reality, you don't know who I am. This is my life. And I'm not not proud of what I'm doing. I have to be proud of what I'm doing. And I want to convey that to you. Whatever you've got going on, just move the needle a little bit every day in whatever way you can. Sometimes it may be a few weeks of just kind of clearing other things out so you can get back to this other thing. But if you keep on pushing forward, things do make sense. So all of that stuff happening. So going back to the story, all of that stuff that happened as I was, this young, um, uh, totally unprepared to be, a real adult, taking care of a family now, and losing my connection to my father and my grandmother and that whole side of the family. It drove home this word legacy. I moved at that same time too. We buried my grandmother on a Sunday, and on that next Tuesday, we moved to a new town and a new house, and so it was so much change all at once. And as I was feeding my baby in a high chair while furniture was being moved in, and I was just overwhelmed with this thought about legacy. Like, I don't know what I'm going to tell this child who's never going to know these very important people in my life. You know, these are tragic, awful things. How am I gonna, I was young, I didn't really know how to think about it. I was overwhelmed with grief at the time where I should be just be full of joy. I was in a new home and a nice little house. I mean, small. It was a first time home. Um, and I had a new little baby, but there was a lot of emotion going on. So I didn't know really how to think about it all, but I knew that I needed to figure out how to convey my past to my children, and I only had one at the time, and the baby, he was 6 months old. I needed to figure out how to convey that down to him and then to his next generation, the next generation. And I was so young and dumb that I didn't understand how much of an impact you can make in just one generation. Didn't have a crystal ball, didn't know that from then how I could get to where I am in life and my children are in their lives. So many blessings in that. But all that goes back to quilting. How? It goes back to quilting because legacy is what drove me into quilting in the first place. Like my grandmother, who we lost prematurely, she she had made two quilts for my brother and I that my children thoroughly enjoyed, especially my daughter, my second born. She called one of them Blanku. It was just the joy of that child's life. And forevermore, that we just can't trash it. It is so worn thin and threadbare in so many places. I'm not quite sure what to do with it. I feel like I just need to do a shadow box around it and put it on the wall. But seeing my daughter and my son to some extent, but then especially my daughter enjoy that quilt, it just all came together for me about what quilts do for us. And I'm a very textual person, like fibers and all that. And I'm an artist too. And so it all speaks to me. It just all came together about what quilting can be. So, so that's how I got into quilting in the first place. I started thinking, I can do this. I want to make quilts. Well, that's another story in and of itself about how to learn and how I gave up for a period of time, a long period of time. I had to do life and there wasn't enough of me to go around. I couldn't multitask in the same way. I had a lot of health issues in my 20s, figured out a lot of things, but did not have any idea about the bigger picture of my health. But it all looked like independent issues. It didn't look like it was underneath some kind of umbrella. So but it was enough that I could not homeschool my children, keep a home, and keep them involved in sports and whatever, and also quilt. Just wasn't going to happen. So I shut down quilting for a long time, and then I had my OC fusion, and that's occipital, cervical. That's the hardware that goes on the back of the skull, and they reposition the head, and then they put bars on that, and then take that down on the spine all the way down to the shoulders. And that was a big deal. I still had major problems going on with my spinal cord. So I was pretty much just stiff as a board sitting in the recliner for months and months, and had no idea how much better I would get because I was having major problems with that surgery. So I wasn't healing like I should have been healing. But I was, in some regards, a lot of regards, because so many neurological problems were getting better, I was in so much better shape. And I knew I could not just sit in a recliner for the rest of my life. And if I did, if I was going to have to sit in a recliner the rest of my life, I was going to have to figure out how to be productive. So I thought, what can I do? I don't think I can set up to, I had been a fine artist, with oils, and hadn't done watercolor yet. I really wanted to do that, with pastels and drawing and things like that. It's like, and acrylics, but I didn't see that I could do that, because that requires kind of leaning into something and kind of being upright. You can't really do that from your recliner. And I thought, oh, can I get back into quilting? And it's like that just rang on my bell as soon as I thought about that. And I thought about all the family that I want to bless, that I'm not able to be in their lives the way I want to be, but can I, through quilting, leave them a piece of me that shows them that they're connected to a greater picture, that they have their feet grounded in something that's bigger than them, that they have a family that's bigger. And I've done the best I can to stay involved in my great nieces and nephews' lives and family and friends and all that. But it's nothing like it would be if I was perfectly healthy and perfectly fit and all that stuff. So as soon as I thought about quilting, I started thinking, I started getting empowered, and I started feeling motivated and encouraged. And I thought, I wonder what I can do. I wonder if I can really do this. I was a big YouTube fan from all those years while I was just so, bed bound or rocking chair bound. And that YouTube fascination that kind of came up, I guess, maybe 2016, 2017 for me, it really went to new heights in 2020 because there was so much more available, right, on YouTube. Well, I thought, well, I wonder what I can find about quilting on YouTube, because I remember giving up on quilting because I had a lot of difficulties, right? It's like, oh, I don't want to do anything. It's going to make me have to use a seam ripper again. I laugh at that, but that was a thought I had. And I started looking on YouTube. I found Fat Quarter Shop. Who is more energetic and more positive than Kimberly at the Fat Quarter Shop? So I leaned in hard to her channel. And then I found Lori Holt, of course. And then everybody else. Like, it just, from there, the gates were open, the dam was open and the water was flooding out. I thought, I think I could do this. So while I was still recovering, I got some books and I kept on watching and taking notes. And then January of 23, I figured out how to set up this little table. Got it off Amazon for $100 and something dollars. It's a computer table, and I put my sewing machine on it. It sinks down for your keyboard kind of thing, and that works out great for the sewing machine. And I was able to set at it by that point. I was able to get around well enough that I could get to setting up the machine and working. And that's where it all started. Where we are now started with that. So this concept of legacy been going through my veins for a long time. So when I saw Barry mention that in his video, that I've got to do that, because not only am I wanting to connect with you all, and I want to hear from you all about what your why is, but I want to really connect and have a real community here. So how do I achieve that with my obstacles that I have to undergo? Right? I have inconsistency in my ability to function, right? That's just going to happen. I can't produce as much on my machine as I want to at the same pace that somebody else can. I can't do this or that at the same pace as somebody else. But I still have a strong desire to produce these charity quilts. And I want that to be to somebody else. I want somebody who is waiting on, and I didn't have a transplant, so I don't want you to think that, but I do have a heart for children who are on a transplant waiting list, because it's not just a child, it's their family and parents and families and siblings who are affected by that. And it can be very hard to wait a period of time, suffering, wondering if help is going to come, because I did do a lot of that. It just wasn't for a transplant. Well, I guess it kind of was. I got a transplant of a new neck and that was great, but that's not what I'm talking about here. I'm talking about a proper organ transplant. I do want to produce quilts that can be given to hospitals, and I want to create that nonprofit or work with somebody who can create that nonprofit. Got to start small and start moving the needle. So how do I do that and push the needle forward on that when I have all these other, things, obstacles I have to jump over? I get you to help me. That's how I do it. So I want to create legacy makers, Lakeside legacy makers, and I'm going to invite you to support me in this. I need your blocks. You send me blocks and I will put them together and quilt them. And then that's how I will have a charitable aspect to my studio, my quilting life, and it will be with your help. I'll still be piecing other things, because that's kind of what you're here to watch is, my creativity on this, my creativity on that, and whatever, or how I'm piecing things because I am a newbie and I do want to help motivate others to say, she says she doesn't know anything, but she's learning some stuff and she's doing it. If she can do it, I can do it. So I do want to continue that in these videos, but I can't do all that. I can't do it all. I'm almost 60 years old. I know one thing by now. I can't do it all. And even whenever I was healthier, I knew I couldn't do it all. Well, it took a long time to learn that. And when you have a major health crisis that comes up that sticks around for a long time, you learn that really well. On a real heart level, you learn that you can't do it all. So if I can't do it all, I need a village. So you're my village. I want us to be Lakeside legacy makers. Not quite sure how to do this or what parameters I need to put on this. But what now, and it's just the first thoughts on this, is I think that if you send me your blocks 12-inch or less, I don't know about sending me a 1-inch block, but any size. You send me a 12-inch block or less, and I'm going to start, when I get enough, I'll piece them together, put a little border on it, and I'll put it on that long arm over there. And then I do have some connections with some people who can help me get that to start getting those into the hands of some pediatric patients. I know a young family in Huntsville, and they went through this. They ended up losing their daughter at 5, and watching her story is really what is driving this. She and her life, and then their journey with her really just it moved me. It moved the entire town, I think. And in her passing, they asked for people to use a hashtag on anything that they do. Like they go and do a hike, or they take a vacation, or they take a boat ride or something that they're doing and they're thinking about her or they're doing it because of her, to use the hashtag in their social media posts about it that says Avery Lives. Well, I asked them if I could do Avery Quilts. So that's the organization that I want to create for us for these charitable quilts is Avery Quilts. And, a long way from actually creating an entity or anything like that. But we start now, and that's with your help. So, I need to get a post office box, but for right now, if you'll just email me, and it's lakesidaqma@gmail.com, then we'll talk about how to get those to me. Right now, I don't want to do any kind of parameters about do them all in yellow or all in children motifs or anything like that. Pediatric patients are, I don't know if they go up to 21 or if they stop at 19. I think they go to 21. My son was a pediatric patient for Crohn's disease, and he got to stick with his pediatric doctor, I think, until he was 21. 6'4" in a pediatric office, right? I mean, it was kind of funny, but he was a good doctor. We wanted to stick with him. We traveled down to Birmingham for him, and we wanted to stick with him. I don't know if there's just some leniency that was afforded to us or if that's a cutoff date. But my point is, don't think about any block you want to send me as that block needs to be just for a cute little sweet kitty cat or butterflies or something that's just for, a small child. That, they're stepped up. These are children that are infants, toddlers, adolescents, teenagers, and all kinds of interests, right? From tech to pets to travel to, fashion, makeup, tools, whatever it is. So because there are so many different things that we can do with this, right now I just want to give you the leniency to trust your gut about what you need to send to me. And then I'll put it together and I'll put it on the design board, which ones we're getting. And then we'll take a look at what we need. Like if I get a lot of sunflower ones or ones that are in the same family, we put a bunch of sunflower ones on one side and some others that are in the fall colors, then I might say, hey, send me more of this. Or if we've got a bunch of kitty cats, we put those all over here, then we might know what we need there too. So just let this develop kind of organically. It's just the beginning. And I can't do this without you. So I really hope that you share this video with other people who you think might want to contribute too. I do ask that you square things up, so make this easy on me. Don't put a lot of work on my plate. I'm going to be throwing work into this, clearly, because I'm going to be piecing it together, putting a border on it, putting on a long arm, taking care of it there, and binding it. And that is going to be just something that is going to delight me to no end. Is a way that I can give back in this world, something I can be productive inside my own little environment here. I am a hermit. I get out very little. That's one of the ways that I am able to pace myself. It allows me to do the things that I do. So I get out very, very little. How am I supposed to engage with this world and give back into this world if I have those kind of limitations? This is how I can do it, but I can't do it alone. So I hope that you will share this out with other people. Please like and subscribe and help me to build this community. If you want to be a Lakeside legacy maker, please reach out to me, lakesideqma@gmail.com. I can't wait to hear from you. We're going to have so much fun with this. I think this is just an answer to a lot of prayers. It's my way of engaging with you all. I've been trying to figure out what this is like for us. I don't think I'm good at doing a live, but maybe I will. Maybe this will be a good chance for us to do some lives if we're working on creating quilts together, like truly together. And I'm not asking to put a big burden on you. I'm offering to you an opportunity to be a blessing to others, and I'm willing to help facilitate that. So help me share this with your guild. Let's see what we can do and be a blessing to others too. So I'm going to turn off the camera now. I've got to learn. My notes here tell me what I'm going to be doing today, and I've got to learn about doing multi-point area, setting up a multi-point area on the Pro Stitcher. The thing I don't want to do whenever I'm doing custom quilting, like you say, okay, look, your quilt, let's say your quilt is this big. Okay, you got a design in here, and you got a design that is this, big, and you want to quilt just inside here, and you don't want any of that quilting design to go over these edges. But let's say that it is kind of tilted like that, just a little bit askew because of how it's pieced together. Well, you use something called multi-point to set up an area so that the Pro Stitcher knows exactly where it needs to quilt inside of. And I think I've watched videos on this once already, but I haven't. I need to watch it again before I actually put it in practice. So that's what I'm going to be doing today and getting started on building these cabinets. So thank you for being here with me. Check back soon, and we'll see how far I've moved that needle. Keep on moving yours. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.